friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the television show that profiles authors, editors, and publishers in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm Elliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. We are delighted to have Stewart Lucas with us here today on Chapters to talk about her debut novel, Ouija Board Summer, a novel that is going to be developed into a multi-book series, which we'll talk with her about today, and talk with her about this outstanding mystery, psychological, thriller-esque novel that is set in the 1960s in West Virginia. And Stewart Lucas is from Hurricane. She's a West Virginia native, a semi-retired licensed psychologist, and a licensed professional counselor who practices as Liberta Salmacha. And Lucas received her undergraduate and graduate degrees from Marsh University. She lives in Hurricane with her husband Randy and their boxer Sadie. And we're happy to have her here today to talk to us about her book, Ouija Board Summer. So Stewart, welcome to Chapters. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So tell me a little bit about how writing got started for you. I know we talked a little bit about this before we started taping, that this is kind of a new experience or a new avenue in life for you. So how did you get started in writing, and how did you get interested in writing?
Well, I've always been a big reader, and I think everybody that reads has that notion that maybe someday I could write. And I've read since I was a child. But about 10 years ago, I started having people, times when people weren't showing up for their appointments for various reasons. And I thought, well, you know, I'm not going to waste my time just sitting here. And I decided, well, I'll just start writing. So I started writing, and it came to me like a little memoir, things from my past. Of course, it's fiction. And as I wrote, I had my office manager at the time, she was typing it for me. And her husband, his name was Norman Yost. She was Jean Yost. And Norman had been involved in literature a lot. He had worked in the field, and he one day was asking Jean what she was writing, and he said, well, can I take a look at it? And he looked at it, and he had a journalist's background, and he said, I think this is pretty good. So I was sort of surprised, because I was just doing it for myself. I enjoyed writing, and I love storytelling, basically. So he encouraged me to continue. So I continued for a while with that, but then I stopped. She became ill. Lots of things happened in my office, so I got a new office manager, and she then passed away. And I sort of put that aside. Then a little bit later, I mentioned it to my husband, because he came upon some of my writing, and he noticed that Michael Nosk, as you know, Michael, was having a workshop at South Charleston at the Rec Center. It was free, so what could we lose, right? So Randy and I went to Michael Nosk's workshop, and I was very impressed with him. And I was impressed. I bought his book, Return of the Mothman, and we went home, and Randy said, look, Liberta, why don't we have him take a look at what you've written? Because I had continued on with that. And I sent it to Michael. Michael wanted to meet us. So we met at the Charleston Civic Center, sat down and had a talk, and he said he thought I had something too. So I thought, okay, well, maybe since two people that are writers have told me that, maybe I do have something. Because it was really more my strategy to do something to sort of entertain myself and maybe grandchildren later on, you know, something that that Nana wrote. Then we gave him the manuscript. He did the editing and encouraged me, and then I went from there. So that's how that all started.
Fantastic. Well, it led to a very good book, and I'm so delighted to talk with you about it here today. One of the things I liked about your book is it's set in the 1960s, and folks that are from West Virginia or around, or from this area know a lot about West Virginia, and people in their 50s and 60s might remember that period. For example, you mentioned Rock Lake Pool in the book, which is where I swam as a young kid growing up, so I remember that very well. But we follow the story of a teenage girl, and how your book starts out. She's playing a Ouija board with her father and some of his friends. So tell us a little bit about who she is and what happens in those opening chapters where we see her playing with that Ouija board.
Well, she is, Bird is her name, and she is, it's sort of a memoir in disguise, because I worked the Ouija board with my father and his friends. Now, it didn't become as fantastic as the story, but that was sort of the little seed that I had to begin with. She's clairvoyant. And it seems as though both sides of the family have had the gift of prophecy, as you know through the Bible. A lot of people have the gift of prophecy, and so the Ouija boards were sort of popular back then, and they didn't have a lot to do. We didn't have CNN and stuff back then, so the men got together and they played board games or whatever. So they brought the Ouija board in, and there happened to be they decided to try it out, thinking that if there's someone that could maybe go into the beyond the occult world, that she'd be able to lead them there. And that's how she starts out. And she's kind of hesitant because she's a Baptist. And when she goes to Sunday school, they're talking about that they don't think it's a very good idea, and they're worried about the occult and that all. So she's sort of keeping it from her friends because she thought she might, be ostracized from the people at the church. But she decides to go ahead and do it because girls wanted to please their fathers. Back in the 50s and 60s, you wanted to please people. You wanted to please your parents. So she continues on with that. And that's who she is. She always wants to do the right thing, but she's conflicted. And as the story goes on, you'll realize that she's hesitant, but yet she continues on because she thinks maybe if she does some things, she can help people. Because that's her desire, is to help people and to be liked. Aren't all teenagers in that situation?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I thought that was so interesting about her because she very much acts like a teenager would, and she has a lot of those moments where she's very headstrong and sure about herself, and she has those moments, as you mentioned, where she thinks, I really want to help people, but is this going the right way? Mm-hmm. Is she based on someone that you knew or someone that you remember? Based on you? Okay.
Yes, right. As I said, I played the Ouija board with my father and some of his friends, and as the series goes on, tragedy does hit her family. Her parents divorce. She becomes more of an adult in the family. Her mother resorts to alcohol and prescription medications. That happened in my life. Mm-hmm. So, although a lot of the fiction that goes around it, all the occult things didn't necessarily happen, but a teenage girl trying to deal with, trying to help her little sister who didn't understand what was going on, and tried to deal with parents who their world starts to unravel, and how she could do that. And I think that speaks to a lot of people, not from the 60s necessarily, but even in today's world. What do you do when your whole family and your whole life starts to unravel in front of you? And then there's that little thought, were you involved in that some way?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that knowing that she is based a little bit on you, we do see all of those questions and issues as we go forward. I want to ask you about the Ouija board in particular, because you talked about how, in the 60s there was no CNN, certainly we had no social media, there was no Facebook or any of that sort of thing. But even still today, people have an attraction to a Ouija board, and kids will still play with the Ouija board, and people still ask questions about Ouija boards. Well, what do you think about it as an activity, or in and of itself, makes it so interesting and so appealing today? Because you've had a lot of experience with it, and you've written about it so well in this book. What makes it so attractive even today with all this technology and everything else we have pulling our attention?
Because I think people want to believe that somehow they can connect into something that gives them a sense of control, that they're connected to the other world, that someone can help them. It's the same basis as religion. That's why people pray. They have less control over the world than they would like, and so they're asking for help from beyond, whether it's from the other world, from the Ouija board, or from God. So I think we all get desperate at times, and so we are searching always for that. What's that one thing that I can do that gives me a little bit of an edge? How can I get those answers if I don't have those answers? And I think that's basically what it's about.
You also have a strong theme in this book of good versus evil. That really comes out a lot in the scenes, and as we see the characters unfolding and tragedy striking, as you talked about a moment ago. Is that something you knew would be a theme of the story, or did that sort of emerge as you were putting the book together?
I think that that's life. It's always life. We struggle. All of us, we're human, and we struggle with that good and evil concept all the time. Even now in today's world, it's becoming more evident that people really don't know what to do. They're conflicted. Is this good or is this bad? Or, you know, maybe we have to go with the lesser of evils. I mean, you know, sometimes it's tough in the world to decide, if I do the right thing, you know, is it the right thing? Ultimately, is it the right thing? Because, you know, really, there are no black and white answers to most things.
And you're right. So much of life is kind of picking the lesser of two evils, or picking the best of the worst, or picking. And I think she does that a lot in this book. You know, she goes through that, and she doesn't really have any good options. And so, being the teenager and being sort of malleable like she is, she chooses what she thinks are the lesser of two evils, or the best of the worst case scenario, which I think makes her, you know, even more of a character that we can identify with and sympathize with.
Right, and that's what I thought. That I have a lot of young readers, young adult readers, and I call it PG-13 because there's some adult themes in some of the books. Of course, in today's world, PG-13 was probably, you know, like a 9 or 11, but I think that it speaks to those things that we were talking about. It speaks to the confliction that we all have, and makes her a likable character because all of us can identify with her. And that's what I was hoping it would do. That's what I'm saying about the book. It's a story. It's everybody's story, just changed a little, when you think about it.
Absolutely, because you can put yourself in any one of those characters' situations and think, I was here one time, or
Exactly.
I know someone that was in this same circumstance and had to experience this same thing. I think that's an excellent point. One of the nice features, too, about your book is we have some illustrations by a gentleman named Zach Gillespie.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you and Zach connected on this project, and what was it like working with him?
Okay, Zach is from Hurricane, and I know his mother. She went to school with my sister. It's one of those things where everybody knows everybody. And she has a medical supply company. And Zach was studying at West Virginia University. And I ran into him one day, and we were talking, and he likes to do that sort of thing. He loves computers, and also he loves to do graphics. I said, hey, would you like to, he said he needed something for a project. And I said, well, hey, I'm doing a book. Would you like to do this? And he jumped right on it. And I'm very pleased with the cover. All of the covers are similar. They have the planchette on the front with different things on, with different colored backs, and also something inside it. And for the summer, there's a tree. So there'll be fall, winter. The winter, there's a snowflake. In spring, there's a flower. So, but I thought it was unique the way he's done that. And he's living now in D.C., looking for a job. So I hope he gets a job. And if any of you, know of a good job for Zach, because he could do advertising, he's just wonderful. He is a good person.
And we'll put a copy of the book cover up on the screen so our audience can see it. But
Okay.
yes, I love sort of the heart shape with the middle carved out. And you talked about the seasons. You know, Zach even identifies that on the spine of the book, Ouija Board Summer, so we get a sense of the season that's involved there. So what was challenging, or what was the most challenging for you in putting this story together? Because you based it a lot on personal experience, but made it a fictional story. What were some of the challenges you uncovered in putting this book together?
I wanted to give enough information, but without being preachy. I was concerned that, you know, you want to have people be there and have the experience of the story, but you don't want to preach to them. And that was my concern, because as a psychologist, oftentimes when I'm giving someone some direction or advice or whatever, I have to be cautious about that too, because sometimes it's pretty evident what people ought to be doing, and but that's not the way to do it. They have to come to that conclusion themselves. And in writing the book, lots of times I would think, oh, well, this needs to be more direct, but I'd have to back off a little bit because I want the reader to follow the experience and have the experience, but not be preached to. And that's what my challenge was, because I think there were some things when I talked with Michael first that he said, you know, there were a couple of passages that I had that he pointed out to me that seemed that way. You know, you don't tell people, you let them have the experience and set it up. So that was my most difficult thing.
Very good. This next question will lead into the follow-up question, but you mentioned that you are an avid reader. Who are some authors that you like to read, and who are some authors that maybe inspire you as a writer? Is there anybody that in writing Ouija Board Summer you mimicked or used their stylistic device to create the book?
Well, I didn't use anybody's particular, but I've read the classics, and when I like John Steinbeck because I can smell Cannery Row just by reading the book, and Mice and Men, and I love that because there you have someone that there's really compassion for Lenny. You know, someone who has some mental deficiencies, and George really cares for him, and he, of course, takes Lenny out so that he will not suffer. And I thought that was the kindest thing, but yet, of course, we don't advocate murder, but under those circumstances, and that's one of those same kind of things that, you know, what's the worst choice? I mean, you know, it was the best choice that he had, but it's not exactly the best choice anybody would say. I think, you know, to keep this person from being sent to the mob and, you know, being harmed that way. So Steinbeck, I think, really had this ability to take us in the story, put us in the story, and make us think, well, what will we do in that circumstance? You know, Grapes of Wrath's another one of his great books. So I liked his stuff. I really did like his stuff. Now, I liked Hemingway too. He's not the same kind of writer. You almost had to manufacture some of the things because he was so stark in his presentation with a lot of his books. But it did give you the ability to think a little bit more, think outside of what he had written. So those are some of the authors that I read. As a matter of fact, I did Death in the Afternoon as a book report in the 5th grade. The teacher was a little bit surprised about my choice of books in 5th grade. So that's some, and now the current writers, I like Jonathan Kellerman. Jonathan Kellerman is a psychologist, so when he writes about things in psychology, he is correct with the assessment tools that he uses. And I think I really enjoy him as a writer. I was thinking about late starters because I'm a late starter in this business, and I thought about Frank McCourt, Angela's Ashes, and I thought, okay, well, if Frank McCourt can start late, why not me, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So I liked his, and I like to read biographies. I love history. And I think that helps us learn a lot about who we are. I recently finished the book about the Roosevelts. It was on PBS, the series, and I, of course, bought the book. I really loved that. But I had read about Eleanor when I was a child. And it's just so interesting to read. Those are some of the things I read. And right now I'm reading Lisa Scottolini's, it's called Rough Justice.
Yes.
And I met Lisa at one of the book fairs here, and she's quite a character.
She is.
And so I've read everything that she's written. She's really a neat person, and it has a good sense of humor. And of course, then we've got some of our local authors, and Kat Pleska. I've read some of her books, and I think it was Writing on Comets was her last book. I was really impressed with that. Joe Wyatt's a friend of mine, and he's written a good book about forensics. And I think we have it here too. And he also wrote Millennium Man, which is, I don't know whether you've read Millennium Man or
I've read
not,
Millennium Man,
but that's kind of an interesting book too for some local authors.
Very good. And I'm so glad to hear you mention Lisa Scottolini, because she's a writer that I love, and I've read all her stuff. Love her. And I love John Steinbeck. And I've talked to a lot of authors on the program. We talk about him a lot, both on camera and off camera. And I think about your book and that thread of good and evil. And one of the things that I think Steinbeck does so well is that he makes even the evil characters, quote unquote evil characters, sympathetic. So in the Grapes of Wrath, you feel sorry for Tom Joad, even though he's been in prison for a violent crime. In East of Eden, which I think is one of his best books, you feel sorry for Kathy Ames, even though she is a prostitute and she's done so many horrible things to her family. You feel sorry for Cal for sending Aaron off to die in the World War I. So many of those things, and hearing you talk tie into what we see in Ouija Board Summer, which is really great. I did some snooping on your book.
Oh, okay.
And I found a Facebook reviewer that said this about your book. And I don't know if this person was a he or she. I couldn't tell by the screen name, but compared your book to Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird because it had a rural setting, it had period references, and it had other literary elements employed throughout. So when you hear a reader say, wow, this is the closest thing I've read to Harper Lee, how does that make you feel? What are some of your reactions to that?
Well, that just blows me away because I read To Kill a Mockingbird years ago, and I read the last Go Set 'em Watchmen. I read that. And I'm just that. I think that's a high compliment, to tell you the truth.
I think so too. I saw that, and I wanted to definitely mention that, because I think that's a great compliment, and anytime to be compared to Harper Lee in any way, I think is great. I don't want to give too much away, but when we get to the end of Ouija Board Summer, we get a sense that there's going to be a series developed, and I know you kind of teased that a little bit earlier on. So tell us about what is the next book in the series, and where are you with that next book in the terms of getting it finished, and when could we maybe expect that next book to come out? Okay,
it's at the publishers right now, so it should be a 3 weeks. We'll have to talk to Michael Nosk about that. But it's fall, Ouija Board Fall, and I've written the whole series. I figured don't put the first book out unless you've got the last of the series because I don't want to be under the gun. But I'll have the fall out soon, and then I plan to have winter. Of course, I'll have to clean it up a little bit. You know how we always have to, always last minute, well, maybe I ought to do this, tweaking a little bit. So I'm hoping to have that out by winter. And then, because it'll be Ouija Board Winter, and then I'll have the spring out by spring. And I've already started the next series. I'm going to do another series, which will be called Beyond the Ouija Board, and I'm already in several chapters on that. But in the midst of this, I'm writing a horror book. Something happened that caught my eye, so I sort of delayed the second series because I want to get this book written, and then I'll tweak it later. But I just couldn't help myself. I don't know whether you're like this, but when I see something I feel like I've got to write it, I just get on it, and so I delayed the second series. But the series is already written, so.
Excellent. Very good. It sounds like you've got not only a lot of exciting things happening with the series, but this horror book as well. And I'm very much like you as a writer, that thought that's on my mind or in my conscience that I can't shake, if I don't write it down or start working on it, it's never going to leave me alone. So
right.
So I think that's an excellent strategy to keep in mind for anybody that likes to write or is thinking about writing, to not let that little itch in your mind or on your conscience go away. So in our final moments with you, Stewart, if someone wants to get in contact with you to talk to you more about Ouija Board Summer, or if they want to pick up a copy of Ouija Board Summer, where can they get the book, and how can they get in contact with you? Okay,
well, they can get the book at Empire Books here in Huntington. They can, it is, I do have it on line, so they can get for a Kindle. They can get it from Amazon Kindle. They can do that. It's on, I think it's on most of the e-readers. Okay. So they can just check with the e-readers and get it there. And they can, and I do have a website, Ouija Board, the Ouija Board series website. So they can just look up the Ouija Board series website and contact me through that. So there's many ways they can. I even have some books at my office. If they want to stop at the office, I'll send them to them. If they want to send me a note, I'll be happy to send them to them. And they are also available in Charleston. There's the Capital Market in Charleston. There are books that are available there. I have books at the Greenbrier Resort, at the bookstore there at the Greenbrier Resort. I'm trying to think of where else, but those are the 3 places right now. Oh, Books and Brews in Hurricane, West Virginia. Why would I forget them? That's right in my neighborhood.
Sure.
He has books there, so you could buy books at Books and Brews on Main Street in Hurricane, here at Empire in Huntington, Capital Market in Charleston, or in White Sulphur, the Greenbrier Resort.
Very good. Stewart Lucas has been our guest today here on Chapters. The title of her debut novel is Ouija Board Summer, and it's going to be developed into a series with another book coming out in the fall of 2016, and then moving on from there. So, Stewart, it was great to have you on Chapters today. Congratulations. It's an excellent book. I would encourage anybody who likes sort of the mystery thriller / horror kind of story to pick it up, because it'll really keep them interested and keep the pages turning until they're finished. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you back on Chapters in the future.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we want to take a moment to thank the staff and management of Empire Books and News for providing our on-site support and assistance today for this episode of Chapters. And we encourage you to come down to Empire Books and News anytime you are looking for something to read, because you can pick up a copy of Stewart Lucas's book, Ouija Board Summer, as well as magazines and a wide variety of local, regional, and national authors and their books right here at Empire Books and News. So whatever you like to read, Empire Books can find it for you right here at Pullman Square in Huntington. So we encourage you to stop by and check that out. If you want to reach out to the program with a question, comment, or story suggestion, we've made several ways to do that via social media. One way you can do that is through email. Our email address is lp4@zoominternet.net. Please do let us know your name and where you're writing from when you send in those comments, so that we'll know who you are and where you're watching from. We appreciate that so very much. If you like the internet a little bit more and like to go in a little bit more detail past email, we have a YouTube page with the Armstrong One Wire program through YouTube. All you need to do is go to www.youtube.com/Armstrong One Wire. From there, click the Chapters tab, and we've got all of our episodes archived there for you, and you can go in there and watch them for the second or third time, and also leave comments in the comments field. So we encourage you to do that as well. And we'd like to let you know that we're on Facebook as well. If you're a Facebook user, just type in Chapters in the search bar on your Facebook homepage. From there, you can see recent episodes posted there and interact and talk with viewers who have read and commented on Chapters programs. So whatever platform you like to use in terms of social media, we've made a way for you to reach out to us here at the program, and we appreciate those of you that have, and please keep those comments and feedback coming, because we do appreciate it so very much. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.